streamline, organize, and grow your business. Welcome to the One Organized Business podcast. My name is Alaia Williams, and I'm your host. Thanks for joining me. Find past episodes, show notes, and business building resources by visiting oneorganizedbusiness.com. Let's jump right into today's episode. On this episode of the One Organized Business podcast, I wanted to take a step back and talk about how to choose and use the right planner for you. We talk a lot about planning on the podcast because I believe that planning is very important, and planning is what helps you turn your big picture goals and vision and ideas into reality. We spend a lot of time and energy, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, whatever, into creating goals, to making plans. But what's important and what will support us in taking action to achieve those plans is having systems that support us. So when we're talking about planning, it's important to use a planner or planning system that works for you. And there are so many options on the market. It can be overwhelming to know what to choose. And it's easy to get caught up in choosing the quote unquote right thing. You know, what's the right planner? What's the best planner? The answer, spoiler alert, is the one that works for you, right? It doesn't matter if it works for someone else. If it doesn't work for you, it's not the right planner or system for you. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about 5 easy things to consider when you're choosing a planner or planning system. It's actually going to take longer for me to talk about these 5 things than it is for you to do the rundown on these 5 things when you're evaluating a planner. That's the good news. It shouldn't take you too long to decide. So 5 things. First thing is the format. What kind of planning is most important to you? Do you just need a big picture of your year? There's, I believe it's called like New Year Planner. It's a big wall planner where you can see the whole year. I had a client once who found a planner on Etsy, a calendar on Etsy, and it was just on her wall, and she traveled a lot for her work. So she really just had that so she could mark down her travel days and launch days, and that was pretty much it. What was important to her was tracking when she was home, when she was on the road, and then she did the rest of her planning in her calendar and in Asana. So that worked for her. I created a weekly planner. Someone saw it and thought, this is perfect, but I just need something more simplified than this. Just, your monthly planner with a bunch of note pages at the back. And so I created that for her. And that's what became the monthly planner that I sell in my shop. I need more detail than monthly, but that's what worked for this woman. She's a shop owner. She sells products online. So she wanted something where she could do her big picture planning of her launches and sales, milestones, things like that. So monthly worked for her. I really like to focus on my weekly plans. So I use a weekly planner. And when I'm not using a weekly planner, I'll use a daily planner instead so that I can write down the minutia of my schedule every day. And yes, I do that even though I have a Google Calendar that has all of my appointments in it. I just like to plan. And if you've tuned into other episodes, you've heard me talk about how I think that planning every day is important. And I've been planning my day every day since 2011. It's just become a habit for me and very important for me in terms of my success and getting things done. So I tend to be a weekly and or daily planner kind of person. So what format do you need? What do you need at a glance? In my weekly planner, there are also monthly planning pages. So every month I do my monthly plan, and then I do my weekly plans, and then I do my monthly review. So that's a process that works for me. Whatever kind of planning you want to do, your planner should obviously reflect that. The second thing that you need to consider is, do you want it to be dated or undated? Some people do not like writing dates in their planners at all. So they want it all done for them. And I would say that dated planners are most of the planners on the market. So those are the ones you can go into Staples, Target, any retail store and find. You can find many of them online, and they'll often be January through December, or sometimes you'll find 17 or 18 month planners that start in like July or August of the current year and then carry you through the following year. So those are great because they're convenient. You never have to write dates in or anything like that. It's all done for you. You don't have to think about it. And then there are those of us that prefer undated. I am a big fan of undated. I don't know about you, but I have picked up planners and journals before and started them, got distracted, put them aside. And then when I picked them back up again, I wasted a ton of pages, right? Once the pages were dated with the month, the day, and the date, I don't feel like going back and scratching that out just to use the pages. So I end up wasting a lot of space in dated planners. I'm better about it now because I have a daily planning habit, but I wasn't so great at it then. But I love undated planners because if I do get sidetracked, or let's say I'm going on vacation and not taking my planner, or something happens where I'm not doing planning for some period of time in my planner, I can still pick the planner back up and have no wasted pages. So I don't mind writing the dates in. It's a nice trade-off for me. And then there are people who like undated and don't mind it so much because they use stickers and things like that to fill in the dates. So they'll put stickers down with all the numbers instead of doing the numbers by hand. I think it ends up taking just about the same amount of time. But those of us who are undated, we don't mind doing one or the other. So first is format, second, dated or undated. Third is the size. And if you've had planners before, this is natural for you to think about. If you're new to planners or if you haven't had one for a while, I really encourage you to think about what's going to work for your lifestyle. So quick story. 2014, 2015, I was using the Day Designer, which I think is one of the great planners out there for business owners or not. And I loved it. But this thing was huge. This was their flagship planner. The Day Designer team has since designed probably a dozen or more other great planners, but this flagship planner was big. It had a solid cover. It was great quality. It was a daily planner. So again, that's 365 days. So it had all of these pages, this heavy cover, and I never really thought about it because I was always working at home. So the planner lived on my desk. It never went anywhere. And then one of my business buddies suggested that we meet, once a week, a couple times a week at her house. And so a couple of us would gather at her house every so often around her dining room table, and we'd co-work together, which I absolutely loved. But because I wanted to have my planner with me, I quickly noticed that my bag became super heavy when I carried around this brick of a planner, plus my laptop and my charger and my wallet and, the other couple of things that I carried. I don't carry a ton, but, a heavy planner and a laptop is a lot, right? It reminds you of that time when you're in school and you're wearing a backpack with these heavy books that are dragging you down. The handles on my purse started to wear away. It just wasn't great. And so I found that I was starting to leave the planner behind. So on the days that I would co-work or be out and about seeing clients, I found that I was transferring things from my planner into something more portable to take with me. And that just didn't make any sense. So in 2015, when I finished with that planner, that was right around the time I created my own. So I didn't have that challenge anymore, but it made portability something that was much more important for me to consider. So I bring that up so that you can think about the same thing. If you're mostly going to be at home, maybe the size of the planner doesn't matter. If you are planning to take it with you in the car, to see clients, to co-work with friends or at a co-working space, if you're going to take it with you when you travel, then you probably need something that's portable. And think about it in a couple of ways. There's obviously the size, the measurements, 6 by 8, 5.5 by 8.5, letter size, 8.5 by 11. There are a couple of ways to look at it. There's the measurement and then there's the thickness. So I carry right now a paperback planner and it's 8.5 by 11, but it's thin. It's thinner than an issue of Vogue. Well, maybe not, but close. It's as thin as a thick magazine, but it's nothing excessive. So even though it's 8.5 by 11, it's not heavy. It fits in a laptop bag with my laptop. So to me, that's still portable. Other people like things that are a smaller purse size or backpack size, or some people even want something that's pocket size, right? There are people who stick their moleskin notebooks into their back pockets, or they use a field notebook or a scout notebook, and they just tuck those into their pockets. So what works for you in terms of size? What are your requirements in terms of portability? So again, first is format, second is dated, third is size, fourth is the style or the binding. And again, this is one of those like personal preference type things that you may or may not think about depending on how many planners you've had, but it can make a difference. I have a lot of left-handed customers who buy my spiral bound planner because they like being able to completely fold the book around and not, have their hand dragging through the ink. I don't know all the challenges that left-handers go through because I am right-handed, but that is something I've heard. And so most of my customers who are left-handed, from the reports they've given me, have chosen the spiral or coil bound version of my planner for that reason. So if you're left-handed, that may be a consideration for you. You want something spiral, or I think I even saw it, and I wish I could remember, but I think I saw somewhere like a planner for left-handed people. So you want something that's going to work with you that way. But other times it's, I don't want to say more superficial, but other times it's less about how you actually write and more about what's comfortable for you. So I like the paperback version of my planner. I didn't think that I would like it. The spiral bound came first. And then when I had the paperback, I'm like, I actually love this. So I don't mind that it opens up like paperback book style. I like that. It's more streamlined in my bag. The rings don't bump up against anything. Things don't get caught on the binding. So I like that paperback book style. There are also hardback styles. And people like those because they tend to lay a little flatter or they're a little sturdier. Again, there are people who like the spiral bound. There are all kinds out there, but that's just something to consider when you're evaluating a planner. Some people also like spiral because they can clip pens to it, or some people will add a pen loop to virtually any style of planner that they have. So that's something you can do as well. But consider what style of binding is going to work best with your lifestyle. And that can play into, the size and portability of it as well. So, your book may have a certain measurement, but if it's got gigantic rings on it, then it's going to add significantly to the size. So there are disc bound planners as well. So there's coil bound, and those you typically can't really add pages to unless you add some sort of accessory that like allows you to stick in extra pages. But there are disc bound planners that make you easily able to add and remove pages from your planners or notebooks or project planners. And they're great because you can rearrange the order of pages, or if you mess up, you can take something out. Or if you want to mix, note pages and project pages and calendar pages, you can do that. It's really kind of almost best of both worlds, ultimate in flexibility kind of thing, because you can create exactly what you want and add and subtract as you need to. But one thing that I've noticed is people sometimes get annoyed at the size of the rings. So you'll usually get a default ring size, a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, something like that. And if you add a ton of pages, you'll need to scale up to larger rings. Or some people don't like the big 1 inch rings or 1.5 inch rings. And so they'll want to scale down to a 1/2 inch. So they'll just remove some pages and get smaller rings. So again, I don't use disc bound right now, but I have in the past. There's a popular line called the Happy Planner. There's Levenger Circa notebooks. Staples has their ARC system. Those are disc bound and are, again, the ultimate of flexibility. And you can buy a hole punch that is disc bound and made for those kinds of planners. So one thing that we didn't talk about here, because I'm focused on helping you choose the right paper planner, is that a lot of planners are available as PDFs. And so you can print off a PDF in whatever size you want and put it into whatever kind of binding you want. So you can take it to Staples and have them coil bind it, book bind it. You can use that disc-bound puncher that I mentioned and turn it into a disc-bound planner that you can use with ARC discs or the Levenger discs. You can simply 3-hole punch it and throw it in a binder. It doesn't have to be complicated. But if you find a planner that you like and it has a PDF format available, that can be nice for some people because you can give it whatever binding and style you want and print it off in whatever size you want. So that's something to consider too. But think about the style you want and what works for you. And last, but definitely not least, is the price. Planners, as I said in a previous episode, have been around for a long time, but they're becoming trendy right now, and I can't be mad about it. I have a line of planners that I sell. It's called The Next 12 Months. And even before that, I have had planners for years, and I loved them. And even when I was in school, I loved when we got to high school and they gave us a new planner every year. I don't know if that still happens, but I think that that's great. And my love of planning started before that, but I loved my planner in high school. But now it's more of a trendy thing. And so there are tons of planners to choose from, and they come at all price points. So that's the good news. You can find everything from, free planner printables, and you can hack together your own planner, to things that are moderately priced from $5 to $20 and things that are $20 and up. So consider what price point works for you realistically. Of course, we all want great things for free, but you may not be able to find exactly what you want for free. So what's your budget? What are you willing to pay for to get what you want? And I really want you to consider a planner as an investment and as an important tool to help you grow your business. Again, we're talking about paper planners here, but whether you're using a digital planner or some kind of system, a planner is supporting you in turning your goals, your dreams, your vision into reality. So what are you willing to invest in that? Maybe it is $5. Maybe you're willing to pay 40 or 50 for the perfect planner that has exactly what you want in the right size, the right style, the right format for you. But be open and really consider that and explore. As I mentioned, there is something out there at every price point. So to recap, to choose and use the right planner for you, you need to consider the format, whether it's dated or undated, the size, the style, and the price. So explore, and you will find the right combination. That is one of the great things about so many planners being out there. I love planners. As I mentioned, I have my own line. It's called The Next 12 Months, but I still buy other planners. I still like to check them out. I still like to use them. Last year, for example, I had a lot of personal goals I really wanted to focus on. And because I was managing a couple of brands already in my planner, the personal stuff didn't fit on top of that. So I did use a second planner for a little while. I usually don't recommend it because rarely do I find that people are using more than one planner to their full capacity. They're usually slacking on one or the other. And then you get to the end of the year and you feel like, did I really need to spend that much money? So as much as possible, I would say keep things to one planner or as few planners as possible. But I still love other planners. I still check them out. And every year I do a roundup of the best planners for small business owners. So on the show notes for this episode, I will link you to that post, which also includes a video for those of you who are into that instead of reading. But I cover about half a dozen planners that are great for small business owners so that you can find the one that works for you. Because there is something for everyone in every size, format, price point. It's all about taking the time to find what works. So like I said, in this episode, it took me longer to explain the 5 things to look for than it will take you to get the answers for those things. So when you check out a planner like the Desire Map Planner or the Day Designer or the Passion Planner, you'll easily be able to pop over to any of those websites and look at the planner and see the format, if it's dated, undated, the size. You'll be able to know in seconds. So take that leap, explore, and figure out what works for you. And if paper doesn't work for you, don't let that stop you. There are digital planners out there. I just prefer paper. And when it comes to project level planning, that's where I get digital. And that's where I get into my project management tools like Asana and Trello. But there are people who love digital planners. They've got their iPads with their stylus or their pencil, and they're using digital planners. So those exist too. The important thing is to find what works for you. So again, go out there, examine the format, the date, the size, the style, the price, and find the right planner that works for you. That's it. So don't forget, check out the show notes, and I will link you to some of my favorite planners for small business owners. So that'll give you a place to start from if you're not sure. Thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you on next week's episode. That's it for this episode of the One Organized Business Podcast. You can find show notes, business building resources, and links to past episodes at oneorganizedbusiness.com. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode.